Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order, the City of Monona Mass Transit Commission, Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Mark, I assume you have the roll.
Yes.
So we'll move right to appearances, and we have first student here, and I know at least Rick had some questions for first students. Welcome, first of all, to the meeting. Thanks for being here. We're not hearing you. No.
How about now?
Hey, there you go. Welcome aboard. If you could introduce yourself, and again, welcome to the meeting.
Yes, that's good. My name is Liddell Cass. I'm the area general manager that supports our Southern Wisconsin business. Currently, I also support some business in Northern Illinois. I took on some additional business in Southern Wisconsin this past winter. We had some changeover in leadership in Wisconsin. At that point in time, I started supporting the Mineral Point location, where we've served the Monona transit work from. And more recently, as I heard you discussing, we've expanded considerably. We won services in Madison, February, March, and then this summer we completed acquisition of Badger Bus and Badger Coach. The coach style buses, they are going to continue to operate that business. So Badger Coach lines will still exist as Badger Coach. But the school bus services for Verona, Beaver Dam, and then the Madison Metro Paratransit will now operate under us.
Okay, great.
So will you change your name to, will they change Badger Bus to Free Food or keep it as Badger?
It will be eventually. It's not going to be immediate. We literally just closed last Friday. It's taken a little longer than anticipated, I guess. I think from when the original announcements went out, but as we're now right upon school start, there's a lot going on, so it's going to take a little bit of time to catch up to all that change.
Great. Terrific. So how the heck are you able to expand since you've had Mineral Point and Monona as your primary clients in this area? That's a big leap, is it not?
Yeah, and I think I was not involved in the acquisition until later on, but I speculate. I think that just once we won the business in Madison, I think that kind of caused a cascade of change. I think it disrupted the Badger school bus division pretty significantly, and I think ultimately we saw it as an opportunity, to to solidify some things in the Madison area, kind of help our Madison start. But yeah, I historically First Student, we operated as Laidlaw. So First Student bought Laidlaw years ago. And I know I was part of the Laidlaw side, but I know that we operated more around the Madison area when we were Laidlaw. I can't remember all the services, but we used to have a larger footprint in that area.
Okay, great. Well, since Rick was the one that had some primary questions to start, Rick, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, hello, I'm Rick Bernstein. I'm also an alder like Nancy, and I'm new to the committee, but I had 3 questions. I don't know if you saw those or not, but I'll just go through them with you.
Yes, I forwarded.
Okay, so maybe you've had a chance to look at them. First question is about electric buses and whether or not that's a possibility for our service, and if so, what kind of schedule do you foresee that taking place?
I think the schedule, I guess, is unknown. Yes, we are definitely pursuing it. I think to some degree, as you may be aware, there's an end date of combustion engine for our type of work looming. It's off in the distance now, but we're going to have to, work towards it versus let it hit us head on. And so as you also, if you're aware and know anything about electric vehicles right now, there's a cost prohibitive side, unless it's involves some of the grants that are being offered. So our company we are pursuing those grants heavily. We are, as far as the school bus side, we're the largest school bus company with electric vehicles in North America. And we're attempting to grow at every opportunity. The cost of a current electric vehicle without charging infrastructure is about 3 times that of a typical vehicle. At least on the school bus side, I'm not as aware yet of the cost impact on a transit vehicle, but it's at least double. It's pretty much the standard. The charging infrastructure is added cost on top of that. And so the grants neutralize that delta, that difference in cost. And so with every grant opportunity, we're pursuing it. I reached out to the team that we have supporting this at a corporate level. So we have grant writers, we have a couple engineers on staff. So we have a team just kind of geared towards this change, just to see what they know about the opportunities on the transit side, specifically in Wisconsin. The current grants that we're chasing are the EPA grants. I think the next due date is at the end of this month. There was a round last summer, and with each round, it seems like they're changing some of the rules for submission. And one of the new rules is that they put states within a zoning, and then we're capped at how many buses we can request in that zone. So it's, instead of last year where it was pretty much by market or by state, we now are prohibited from going carte blanche at whatever we want. We're actually in this grouping of states, and our number of vehicles that we can chase at one time is less. I think they're trying to diversify the number of companies or agencies seeking the grants. So I did reach out to that team just for some input on the transit style vehicle and what their thoughts are. I just haven't gotten that feedback yet. I will share it with you, but we are, I can tell you for Madison School specifically, that was something that was part of our bid, and they qualify as one of the priority districts based on the current EPA criteria. That classification actually improves not only the chance of award, but it also increases the funding if there is an award. So you can submit if you're not a priority designation. But from my understanding, if awarded, the award value is going to be less than if you were a priority designation. So we're in the process of submitting for, I think, five to 10 for Madison specifically for the school district side. So I will give you feedback once I get it from our EV team. I think there's a great chance we're going to have a footprint in Madison in general within the next 2 years. And we're going to go after it for all business that we're serving. I can't guarantee a date at this point in time just because of the grant side. You know, we can share pricing with anyone on what it would take to, you know, produce EV, whether it's one or a full fleet. But once you go through that and you see, you know, most agencies that see the full cost on a full EV fleet, it's usually the funding behind it on the agency side or the school district side doesn't support the change. I think the technology is so new. We're already seeing some developments and cost decrease just as it grows. And I think the more it grows, the more neutral the cost difference is going to be between EV and typical combustion. The one thing that so before we had the larger footprint in Madison, you know, we've been operating your services out of Mineral Point. And it doesn't mean that we're dispatching buses to and from Mineral Point each day. We have that location is supporting the vehicles, servicing the vehicles, but the actual drivers and vehicles are parking and operating closer to your service. So in the Madison or Monona area. The problem with that when it comes to an EV conversion is that the infrastructure, we would have a hard time installing infrastructure at somebody's home to operate an EV from. We need a permanent residence that we have some ownership of to invest in EV charging, to the point that sometimes it means that we have to change the service that we're getting from the utility just to support EV, right? So there's the infrastructure alone can cause a cascade of changes that it's unknown until we really get in. So now that we're growing in the Madison area and we're adding bases to operate from, that increases our ability and the chance that we would be able to convert your fleet to EV sooner than later as well.
Okay.
And long term, I think, you know, it's a good time just to share. I think, you know, we haven't broached this with you yet, and our intent isn't to get your services mixed up in what else we have going on. We don't want to impact your services until things are calm and it's the right time. But we do have intent longer term to support your routes from our Madison business versus Mineral Point. And you know, as we are operating for Madison Metro, the paratransit side, the 25 or so routes that are there, we are going to have shop and staff and all of the resource right in your backyard now, and it's going to make more sense to at some point in time. But like I said, until it's calm, we have no intent of changing who's responsible for the services, and that's a conversation. I'm not telling you that it's, you know, it's an ultimatum or, you know, this is just how it's going to be. We want to engage with you at that point in time, but I might as well plant the seed now.
Okay.
That's good information. Thank you. Should I go on, Nancy?
Sure. When
Okay.
I just have one quick question. You said 5 to 10, and you said, are you talking 5 to 10 million or 5 to 10 buses?
5 to 10 buses.
Okay.
Yeah. So
in any 1 year, the most that you can get out of the granting process is 5 to 10 buses.
oh no, currently based on what we're targeting, we're I can't remember which zone Wisconsin's in, but Wisconsin's now included with some other states.
Yeah.
And when the EPA did that in the current round, it really, it lessened our ability to broadly, last year, we were trying to get 20 per customer in some markets, right?
Right.
Trying to replace a good portion of a fleet. Because of the multi-state approach this time, the zoning, we're capped at, I think, like 50 vehicles we can submit for across those states.
Right.
So as we're trying to grow our footprint, we have customers all over the place with this demand. So we've really tried to do kind of a shotgun approach. So where we have priority customers all over the place, instead of investing all the fleet in one priority customer, we're trying to do it all over the place. And we have a better chance, we feel, of getting more EV opportunity with our customers that way versus putting all of our eggs in one basket.
Sure.
If that makes
Got it.
any sense.
Totally. Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
Sure. I think the next question should be, as I understand it, you're having problems hiring bus drivers, and that's complicating the schedule.
Yeah, fast.
Is it,
They're fully staffed now.
are you fully staffed now? Do you continue to feel that's going to be the case?
We are staffed with what we feel are appropriate spares at this point. And it's from my understanding, and so Todd is the actual operator in Mineral Point who supports the business, and he's off this week. So I'm trying to answer the questions based on the knowledge I have, but I know that coming out of pandemic, we did have we lost a couple drivers, I think, to retirement, and we were for a period of time struggling to fill those two roles, and I know it impacted service. I think at least on the morning loop or one of the loops, I think definitely went away. But since that time, we've filled the seats, and to the point that we had someone else retire last year, and we had candidates pretty immediately to start training to fill that position. So I think, from my understanding, we've maintained those the staffing plus the couple spares that we're trying to have since then. One of the things that we've also done, just as when we bid on the Madison school bus business, we significantly changed the wage structure in this market. Our bid entailed a larger wage rate, and that has trickled out to other types of service. In this spring, I worked with Todd, and we did take up the rates a couple dollars an hour. So, and that's probably part of the reason why, as we were recruiting, we were having immediate success in filling the roles. And I think that's our long-term intent. As we've gotten into the Badger side of business now, we've carried over a larger wage structure to their metro workforce as well. And I think, there's such a driver shortage for commercial drivers right now that wages aren't the only answer, but they definitely are impactful in the competitive market. So.
Okay. So as far as current day service, you're able to maintain the original schedule of so many loops in the morning, so many loops at night.
Yes, they're.
Okay, that's good to know. The other thing is, just so that we can compare apples to apples, I'm wondering if it's possible for cost estimates to be prepared for an 8-hour or 12-hour or 16-hour service, just so that we have something comparable when we're considering the metro option. Is that something you'd be able or willing to do?
Sure could, and that is the one question that I would want Todd's involvement, just to make sure I'm not overreaching with my understanding of the contract and the business. So if possible, could we get you that answer early next week when he's back to work with?
Yeah, but the answer, the contract is per hour, so there's a charge per hour. So we can add or subtract.
Oh, it's that formulaic.
Yeah. If we want to add an extra hour, There's like, it's like $60 an hour, something like that.
How much?
$60 an hour,
60?
60. So to that effect, I can't.
Okay, so,
But it's in the contract.
16 hours times 60 is a 16-hour day.
So you're talking about 16 hours,
If we wanted something,
So
Metro
what do
is
you-
gonna run 16 hours. What would a 16-hour day look like if we wanted to go with Metro?
yeah, let's do the math. But
Oh, okay.
we can do the math, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know if they would be, I guess they'd be.
Yeah, able to fulfill
able
the
to
term
fill
of
that-
an existing
yeah,
contract.
if they want to, but
oh,
sorry.
well, that's probably the bigger question, if that's something you'd be interested in doing, if we wanted that from you.
I'm sure we would, and I think, the timing maybe of the switch and what we'll propose at some point, but I think, our Madison operations are staffed. Not just on the driver side, but we have a larger pool of drivers, but we'll have dispatch. We have dispatch on duty more constantly for that business. And we would support this sort of a growth idea with that framework. So it's a better framework, I think, for that longer service
Okay.
that you're talking about. So and that was my understanding on the contract rate, but I also before, without Todd to bless it, I was afraid to speak out and be wrong.
Okay. And just offhand, I don't know if you know this, but I guess it'd be good to know what the time of the runs are. So we were using Metro, we were saying something from Monona and Dean to the Capitol Square, if you happen to know what that, and then back, what those times of those routes would be, so we'd have a exact comp for what we're comparing with Metro.
I think you could just ask Doug and Addie and people that use the service regularly, they can give you those times, Rick.
It's also, we can figure it out from the schedule, that's the time when it starts.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that
All right,
drop
Yeah,
off
I
schedules.
From my house, it's 38 minutes going in and 46 minutes coming home, depending. But I
Wow.
haven't done anything with Atwood, so Atwood's kind of messed up.
oh, that's just temporary, yeah.
Yeah, but no, this was before Atwood, so it was 46 minutes home. Before they started doing construction on Atwood,
Okay,
so, yeah, I haven't ridden since they started that, but that's because I'm on a bike and working something's different. Is that about where you're at? when you take
When
it?
I was in an optimized location
Oh, nice.
at Keene and almost at Monona Drive. I think it was more like 20 minutes downtown, maybe less.
Okay, yeah, I
It's
was
pretty
usually
quick.
the first or
And
second.
because it
person
runs in the
bus.
opposite direction in the evening, it's about the same home.
oh, wow,
Yeah, I was at the tail of the route, so I'm the first
Okay.
one to get on and usually the last one to get
Yeah.
off, so.
I mean, I could be a little bit wrong in my estimation, but that's about what it felt like.
Close enough.
okay,
And I think we could look at the schedules at the little
Yeah,
drop points, because
okay,
the bus usually ran pretty true to schedule.
I think just studying it on Google without knowing the stop information, I was showing about 20-25 minutes. And I know bus is a little bit slower than, typical car, but I looked a couple times throughout the day just at different times, just to see what the backups might be. But I just didn't know what the stops. I know the stops will add time to that. So
okay. Well, those are my questions. If
I
anyone
have-
has anything else,
Yeah, two others that have come up through this conversation. So one is, you had mentioned, given the changes in your business structure, that your organization is going to be running the Madison Metro Paratransit service. Did I understand that correctly?
a portion of it. So Badger, I don't think they had all of it exclusively. I think they have the majority of the contract, but that
Okay.
contract then is through the acquisition, then that will be our responsibility.
Thank you. And then the other question was about safety, and does your organization publish an annual safety report to the public? How do you communicate with the public about safety incidents that happen with your buses and or with your drivers?
Good question. So I don't think we have a public report per se. I do think we have some data that we can share, that it does come up from customers, and especially in the bid environment, that's often one of the requests for submission. So there is information we can provide there. We definitely, I could provide to you our overall safety practices, just as, as if we were in a bid environment, just so you can see what we're sharing with customers. It definitely, I mean, we have when we make a change to our safety program that drives the industry, we are, that is the foundation of what we do. So, it's definitely something we love to share and talk about. So I can get some documents to share with you guys.
Mark, do we by any chance already have those documents, since these guys have responded to our RFPs? every
Yeah, I
time
think we do.
contact?
I gotta look at the stuff they submitted, but I believe we have most of that stuff. So, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
but there isn't an annual public reporting.
yeah, I mean, if you want to send something on, that'd be great. If it's changed from perhaps what we might have already on file.
We should show Rick the RFP
Yeah.
that we write, because her student service is based off of our RFP that we wrote. So
Right.
it's all like, they're just providing exactly what we asked for. But, in this type of arrangement, we could have anything we wanted, really. And we've tweaked it over the years to ask for various things that we thought would be nice. Which I guess is like different than I think.
Yeah.
Going about this, which is they're just quoting us. They're saying, here's what we can do, and quoting us a price for it, basically.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well,
And then we've had binders returned to us from different vendors with their. Just like he's saying, their safety data, their business practices, information about the equipment. And of course, the cost. Or the cost of services if it exceeds what's in the base contract, et cetera, et cetera. So that might all be useful stuff just for you to see. 'Cause it's like there's a treasure trove of info in there.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
informs you.
Yeah, I was thinking back to 2 years ago when we were going through the contract and bidding process. We wanted to know a lot about DEI training with the drivers and safety training with the drivers following the incident at the protest. If you remember that? So
Yeah.
that was kind of what triggered that question about safety. But thank you. Vacancy rates are low. Same operator for Monona Lift and Madison Paratransit going forward partially. And safety reporting available on request. Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to meeting you in person as well, Mark. I know that I think, ongoing, you're our primary contact, so
Yeah.
I do apologize. I haven't met you sooner than this. I had intended to make some rounds. This whole the whole Madison and the acquisition stuff is really kind of taken over the last few months. So
Can only
No,
imagine.
We work
Thank
with
you.
Todd, so he's been great. Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks for your time. Very appreciated.
Thank
thanks
you.
everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Okay. So with that, we're going to move to number 5, unfinished business. There is none, and we'll move to new business. The criteria for selection of transit provider. I want to start by once again sending my huge virtual applause and thank you to Addie for her yeah, no, huge help. I mean, we all had notes from the last meeting in terms of some of the criteria review and evaluation that we wanted to do, and you did a really nice job of capturing it all and taking feedback as well. So so much appreciated. You also had some very specific recommendations as to how we might tackle this. In other words, you said from your extensive data background, you wouldn't advise us getting into like a ranking or a vote kind of situation. So why don't you go ahead and explain what you said to me and to the rest of the group?
Yeah, so I think how in the past, I've used this kind of evaluation with a lot of patients that are making really big decisions about their own healthcare, right? So very different context, but the decision process, I think, is pretty effective. And so this is a way for us to do kind of three really important things. First of all, is to get all of our thoughts and our concerns out into one place. Right. So I think the most important thing as we're doing this is if there's something that comes to your mind as a concern, let's put it down. But importantly, we're not here to debate them right now. We're trying to get everything out on the map.
Right.
And that these vertical proposals and these horizontal considerations are kind of that map for us to fill in. And the second thing is that we're not doing any kind of formal scoring here. I think a lot of engineering design proposals and really complex things would be assigning weights and numbers. And, we're not going to get into that. I think that's way more complicated than what we need. So I think the important thing is that we're just talking about these proposals relative to one another.
Right.
And we don't have to officially number them or score them or rate them or rank them. That's not what we're really trying to do.
Yep.
And then in the end, what we can do is, Nancy, and I'll kind of leave this to you and Rick as the other people, take our conversation and really focus us on which proposal we think is the one to push forward.
Yep.
Right. And so it's really about consensus building and not about voting or majority so get everything on the table, see what we can talk about, see what everybody's considerations are,
Right.
and start to form consensus.
Yeah. Terrific. Thank you. Sounds like facilitation work I often do.
Yeah.
Similar
good work
process,
too.
different environments, but the process is salient. So thank you. So do folks want to go? Would you think, or Addie, do you think the way to go is to go vertical or to go horizontal?
Well, actually, I was gonna first ask, has everybody had a minute to look through this and just kind of think through, and has everybody done their homework? Because if you haven't, honestly, I think there might be some value in just taking 5 minutes or 10 minutes for us to just go through this on our own and then converse. But if everybody's ready to go through it, I'm getting some shakes from Doug.
I have read
I've
it.
definitely gone through it. Rick, do you feel comfortable going through it?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, and Nancy, you too? Feel
Yeah,
comfortable?
I'm good.
Okay, good. So yeah, I think across the rows, each taking up each consideration, I think is probably the better way to do it.
Okay.
So if we want to kind of, I think given that, we're already 34 minutes into our meeting, we want to kind of keep a pace. And I'm willing to be kind of the push to keep moving forward.
Okay.
And in the light of moving forward, if it's all right with you guys, if we get into debate, I'll just give it an Elmo. And do you guys know Elmo?
I know the character.
It's an acronym for enough, let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we get into like debating things, we'll Elmo it and put a flag on it and come back.
Yeah.
So we can hopefully get through it.
Temporary chair of the commission.
Facilitator of the chart.
Great.
Let's rock.
Yeah,
Let's rock. So affordability, obviously, if we have no transit, the cost to individuals is
Infinity.
It's expensive.
I
yes,
was gonna say infinity.
yeah, all private,
yeah.
right?
Well,
There's no public.
unknowable, I suppose.
Yep.
Well, it's the cost of owning a car.
Sure.
or lots of shoes to walk, or bikes to bike.
Oh,
you know.
that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Okay.
I guess it's like. Easy enough to, look at that and say. Doesn't really, like. Rate in this row as a thing that you need to compare it to, but
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Portability.
and Monona Express,
I mean,
$3 top,
personally,
right?
I think like. The price difference between. Any of the services that where you pay a fare is. Very close,
Yeah,
within a
Yeah.
dollar. And maybe of a person of my income level, that's rather insignificant. But they're all pretty close to one another.
I'd say the only big, to me, the big difference would be Metro. But a lot of like City Madison pays their passes. They don't do that here, so.
Yeah, I agree, subsidization is
Subsidize it,
Metro.
probably.
And I think our Lipton Express fares are different depending on who you are.
Right, there is a little bit of a discount.
So, yeah. But anywhere from $2.25 to use the express for a regular, just not a senior or a student. I always thought that was rather affordable. I think Metro's like $2,
Yeah, I
$2.50.
think they're all.
225, yeah, I'm not sure.
So
and it's.
comparable.
I think
And
they're
it's
all.
also, though, a difference, well, the two things there would be. I think would be, first of all, as was just pointed out, if somebody is employed. By someone who provides subsidy, which would include all of the major employers in the Madison area. Then the cost would be considerably less to them as an individual. With Metro, because because Express and Lyft don't have those subsidies. And given the numbers, it's highly unlikely that they would ever get the subsidies from UW Madison or the hospitals or Edgewood College also has, like, I think it's $10 as a pass for students at Edgewood on Madison Metro. And the other difference is that isn't the Metro $2, it's not $2 a ride, it's $2 a day, right?
Yeah, I thought it was $5 a day, $2 includes a transfer.
Oh, I thought it was once. Oh, you're right. It's $2 regardless of where you go. Including the transfers, I think.
Mark, do we not set the fare rate?
We do.
We do.
That's
So
our
one distinct difference is that the Lipton Express are rates that we set. They don't care what we decide to charge, right? We just pay them whatever they charge us and they collect the fare and give it to us, or they subtract it from our, I don't know how to do it. Oh, we buy the ticket, yeah. Anyway, I don't know how it's done, but we set it.
It's 3 different ways.
So we could make it as affordable as we wanted to.
Yeah.
If we felt generous.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but that would affect the cost of the municipality.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nice, transition to the next row, the cost to the
Alright.
municipality.
Mhm.
And again, having no transit has no cost to the municipality.
That's a zero.
a Real benefit to not having
Real
transit, you don't have to pay for it.
So it'd be a savings of 106,000. 100, so
Oh,
there is a savings to the city.
Mhm.
The money you spent somewhere else, but it's
right.
Yeah.
technically a savings.
Okay, that's a savings if we don't have transit. Good point. 101,000.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't,
You
you're
know,
the accountant, but that would give us a $200,000 swing. In comparing these two, so I would say that's zero, and this is $101,000. You know what I'm saying?
That's how I was thinking about it. I was
Yeah.
thinking about opportunity
Oh,
cost.
right. Okay.
I mean, it's money we spent somewhere else, but yeah, these are
True.
that's
Yeah, we're the transit
what?
commission. You guys figure
More
the
brush
budget.
things like that.
Sidewalks.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Trees.
I know what you guys are saying.
Alright.
More
But these two don't necessarily have a separate cost for, right? So if we look at what you've got here,
Yeah, they're
we're at 101,600, correct?
correct.
So, and then for the numbers that Mark sent out earlier today, Metro, $82,000 net cost to the city for the one-way, and Metro two-way, $131,500. And I'm assuming here that if we just take the G and L, it's still 82.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geno's.
That
Regardless.
Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't cost us anything. Either way.
Wait, hold on, doesn't cost us anything or doesn't cost us $82,000? Sorry, I'm
It's just part of the
That's part
package.
of the whole package.
yeah, and so if,
So it's still a theory, but it's part of the whole package.
Got it.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't get it unless we entered into a contract with Metro.
Right. But some community members propose that as the service that we have
I mean, you could,
without the Route C. Because they think it would be adequate,
you could do that.
and I wasn't sure if that would be slightly less money.
It would, I mean, I would have to go back to it and say, what would this cost? I could do that, say, what that we just didn't have. If we just wanted the Geno.
but we know it's something less, but not,
Yeah. I
We'll
could
say
say
82K or less for the sake of today's
yeah,
conversation.
yeah, good.
So- Can I go back for a second to Monona Express? What was the sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me. What did Mark, what did you have for the cost of a Monona Express?
It would cost to the property taxes is 101,600, 101,600.
Okay, and what was Lyft?
And they're both combined, that number's combined, they don't break it out. So,
I thought that it was broken out so that you could get the subsidy from the state.
no, we do get the subsidy for the full amount. So we get the subsidy, state subsidies based on the total amount. I mean, I can break it out.
Well, so wait a minute, so you're saying you're saying that's a net 101?
Yeah,
That's a net, okay. That's
For
what I
both,
thought,
for
because I was
both.
like, no, we spend over 200,000.
yeah, well, if you want that, the actual cost is 280. So like the actual cost is 280,000 minus revenue and minus state aid to get to the net property tax number, which would be 101,600, the cost to the city.
Got it.
So the highest overall cost of the city is for Metro two-way. Per student operating Monona Express and Monona Lyft is somewhere in the middle. Madison Metro one-way would be a cost of approximately $82,000 to the city, and operating GNL would be something less than 82K unspecified, and no transit at all would cost nothing. Okay,
Okay, can we go back? I just want to make sure we have captured on the top line affordability. Metro Paratransit is $350, correct, each ride?
Paratransit. Paratransit is based on if you're an adult or a senior, so we don't charge, it's just based on. If you're a senior and you take paratransit, it's a rate. Even if you're adult or you take paratransit, you pay that same rate you would pay to the express, so.
No, I'm talking about Metro Paratransit, and I'm pretty
Oh.
sure it's a set fee of $350 per ride.
Yes, I was thinking you're talking about,
yep, I'm looking it up.
yeah, sorry, I thought you meant the left.
That's all right. Whereas Monona Lyft, our seniors pay what for Lyft? 1 or 150?
150.
What a deal.
150 one way, so it's a $3 one round.
Oh, gotcha.
325,
And that's a one way.
that is
Yeah, thank you.
325 for the paratransit fare from Metro.
Metro.
And you can get us, let's see, 6 at 19.
We're
Okay,
doing a lot of math.
We're not gonna be able to compare
It's still
apples to
325.
oranges. It's all gonna be.
Yeah.
Fractions. And it just.
Onto ease of use of the
Thank you.
systems.
yep.
Well, no transit's very easy to use.
If you're getting in a car and driving someplace, but for everybody else in the middle of winter, walking up the street is.
Oh,
fun.
well, you're comparing it to what? Okay, I
Yeah.
see your point.
I mean, I would say, my personal way, I looked at it like I looked at it as like Metro has a better website, systems are probably easier to use as far as for.
Google Maps, Google Directions will incorporate their transit system
Yeah.
into directions and give you proper travel time.
Things like that.
Real
bus
life, real
locators,
time.
maps that work on your phone really well. Their website's great. We've gotten a lot of feedback in the past 6 months about our website not being great.
Transit, yeah, it's just translog things really, it's sometimes up and down. I don't write it, so I don't know.
I think the one thing that's important also to point out though is that the benefit of the Monona Lift service that we heard a lot was that it is door-to-door service. That isn't available that makes it very easy to use for people who are disabled. So I did include that as kind of one of my considerations.
Mhm. And I would say that it's a little bit tough without a column or the paratransit wing of Metro to say
Oh.
that they don't have that, because they do, right?
We do have one for transit.
Oh, you made a little update.
Yeah,
Say,
didn't it come through that way too?
no,
I used
but-
the one from the link in the email.
oh, well.
You know, yours.
Air Transit is door to door. It operates the exact same way. If you qualify,
Yeah.
it operates the exact same way, same door to door.
Yeah. And so that is. a
Same
benefit
size
for
buses, same door to door.
Lyft and paratransit, yeah.
I would say for the express too, though, wouldn't it?
No.
I'll take it.
The express is not door to door per se.
If you get lucky.
There's a bus stop for the express that you're supposed to get on at. If the bus driver knows you, they could pick you up in a discrete location.
What's like,
Or on the way home, if you're the last rider, they would always just take you wherever you wanted to go.
well, that's what I mean, so there is a little bit of versus.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And I would say it is in that way easy. The amount of availability of times that it runs is what I think is the limitation.
Yeah,
So are rides gonna be shorter, or is that a separate issue? I think, will you spend less time on Monona
That's what it's-
than you will on the bus,
I think if you
the
look at,
metro?
that's under frequency and timeliness.
Okay, good,
Because
so save it for that.
Thanks, good question.
So what are we putting for Monona Express ease of use? What do you guys?
I don't know yet. It's just kind of talking it out.
I don't think it's the easiest system to use. You really have to have insider info in order to use the system.
for
It's
first
not
time
as,
people,
Yeah,
High
for first
approach.
time people.
first time people, I think it's not easy, but I think once you get on there, it's.
Yeah,
easy.
yeah,
But I
oh, for
think
sure.
if you're just somebody who's traveling here, the ease of use is not,
yeah,
I think that's probably the big difference.
it was kind of a secret until I moved here.
And it's also limited, it's also obviously, well, I mean. It goes to another thing, forget it. I was gonna say it's also limited routes, because Express only goes to 2 places.
Right, and I would say that still qualifies as an ease of use item,
Yeah,
you know. Like I'm going somewhere and I'm using this service and. Getting to where my destination is, which isn't near the route, is harder, so.
okay.
On to access coverage of our community.
I would say paratransit has it all over Monona Lift. It's Monona,
Say again.
paratransit is much better than Monona Lift when it comes to coverage. Because it's community wide, whereas the Monona Lift only follows a certain band within its current.
Right,
Kind of a limited
So,
radius,
like,
right?
you can't get it to like a lot of health services.
Let's start with, let's just run across it. I think we,
Okay,
obviously, we don't have to talk about no transit. Monona Express is limited in terms of run times and where it runs. It has one single loop. Right?
And it's only weekday peak commuting times.
Mhm.
Right, so I think it's the same situation you're running into with the one-way metro, is like, if you want to get to the pool, you can't really get back on it until it comes back around again from downtown.
right.
they're
And
both
that's,
that way.
and that's what we talked about the last time, but I mean, that's where I was getting to when I said we can't let perfect get the edit of it good, because the reality is you can't do that with the Express either. You know,
Yeah.
and
Can't
you
ever
can't
go
do
to the
any-
pool at
and you can't get to the pool at all on weekends or nights or when concerts are or whatever, because the Express doesn't run then. Right? So.
Right,
So even the one way would, in my view, would be an improvement over where we are now with Express, because Express is so limited that it doesn't, it doesn't serve the city center any better than what Metro would do, really, and Metro would be better.
Yeah, I think too that the, proposal of any of the Metro proposals have more frequent or better coverage of our community for bus service.
I think, I mean, if you consider the G and L and C are running through Monona, and then you can connect to any other area of the city through a transfer, connected to the entire network. You're connected to coach service and the airport.
Yeah.
You're connected to the entire nationwide transit network, essentially. I'm not saying the length of time it takes to travel under those circumstances is ideal, but I mean, you would be able to connect to Paris, France from your house if you're willing to walk to the bus stop, ride it to the airport and fly. You wouldn't
Right.
need a car to do any of that. So,
You can get a Badger bus to the airport from Park and Ride.
right.
And does this go to the Park and Ride, the Metro?
No, and I want to bring up that as one of my.
The Dutch
key
Mill Park and
concerns.
Ride?
Yeah,
No, but it probably goes to another Badger bus pickup location because there's several.
there are other ones at the Union. on
But, yeah, like-
campus.
They pick
Lake
up on
Street.
East Wash,
Do they?
they pick up downtown.
Sun- Or partway out Sun Prairie, but I don't know, I haven't tried that.
Badger coach is like, there's like a handful of spots. I don't have a depot anymore, but they used to.
Yeah,
I would like to point out here, though, when we're talking about access to the community, the current route C3 that we're proposing isn't going to go close to the Pick and Save and that intersection. So for me, that's an important consideration to get on the here. And also, as Metro has said in their redesign plan, is that they're trying to get people around town faster, but are asking people to walk a little bit farther to get to bus stops.
Mhm.
And so that was an intentional choice that they made with the redesign. And so would be part of what we're doing is that, yes, some people will have to walk farther to get to a bus stop. Compared to the lift or the express, and especially compared to the lift.
you can bike to the bus though, right? You could take a bike and then put your bike on the bus, so you don't necessarily have to walk.
I will say this about comparison of transit, paratransit to Lyft. Paratransit requires a hurdle of approval. Lyft, I could call Lyft, they would come get me.
yes.
They don't care that I'm not a
I was
senior
just gonna say that.
at all.
Yeah.
Or that you're, or that you're not disabled.
Correct.
There's no
There's no bar
criteria
for
whatsoever.
entry. So, I don't know if that's part of ease of use or access, but
Sounds like.
We also
access.
have an equity question on
Sure.
page 2 about serving people with disabilities and seniors, so that'll be important here too.
But this is access for non-disabled. people
Right.
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
So that is,
so how much of your community can access transit? Right now, there's a slight favoring comparing Lyft to paratransit, I guess, in that regard.
I mean, if you want to say the community, you're.
But again,
Within
not
the lifts.
the metro, other parts of metro do a better service job covering everything else, so they kind of mix and match.
On to equity, the first of many considerations for equity. So overall, how well does transit serve all of Monona? We'll go into special considerations for people on the route, adults and seniors, older adults and seniors, and people with disabilities next. So this is more the overall question for Monona.
Okay, so with Express, your geography has a strong connection to your usable you know, how well Express would work for you. Like you said, your transit time was 38 minutes.
Mhm.
To my 22, maybe.
Yep, yep.
So that's,
Well, and we're both
I know that most
commuters.
routes have a problem like that. But
Oh, I agree with you.
Would that be the same though, between Metro versus Monona? In terms of where you are in the route, the times being different?
all except for maybe the two-way option,
Yes.
which might provide a little bit of
Right.
reverse, you know, improvement for some people, but.
Yeah.
The one way to look for Metro. So if you're at the high school, get onto high school, you're on close right before you go downtown, but you're one of the last people getting on the buses on the way home, so.
Right,
Your route on the way home is a lot longer on the one-way Metro than you would on Express, because you'd be first one off, first one on, so there is a. For certain areas of the city, there is a big change.
Important
That's the one-
though,
that's
the
a-
G and the L goes right in front of. No, sorry, the G goes right in front of the high school and the L goes on the backside of the high school,
One of the two, right?
right? So close, but
Yeah, but not to C3.
Yeah.
I was thinking more
yeah, it's
C3.
not gonna drop somebody
Yeah.
off at the library, unfortunately, nobody's walking.
is the,
But I do think that Monona Drive with the additional stops that Mark, you said. Were possible with Metro once we identified with the G and L routes. You
Yeah,
said
they'd be.
that Metro was willing to put stops for the G and L routes and that. In my mind, that could solve a lot in terms of the one-way versus the two-way, because like, for instance, at the high school or further down. South on Monona
I
Drive,
just destroyed everything today, guys.
it seems like they're. You know, they're, and that actually could also apply. A little, potentially apply also to. The pick and save question. Which is to say that, you know, if, I mean, I know that Metro has said they cannot go into. Southtown, or they can't go into the Metro, you know, Metro Mart, parking lots. But it may be that they could have a stop on the corner where Chipotle is, or, you know.
Or Qdoba.
Or Qdoba, right.
Burrito corner Monona.
Yeah. So I feel like the equity as it relates to serving all of Monona, I guess the other thing I want to point out in terms of the differences is that. I think that there's a erroneous assumption that the only people that need Metro are the people that, and this speaks to the whole issue of G and L. And also a lot of the comments that we heard in the info sessions, which is that there's an assumption that the only people that need Metro live on Monona Drive and Broadway. And in fact, the largest number of riders that we have in our current services are not even on Monona Drive and Broadway. They're in the interior of Monona, both for the Lyft and for the Express. So, so in terms of serving all of Monona, I think Metro, by virtue, right now anyway, by virtue of the fact that it runs 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and serves the interior as well as the arterial highways of Monona, you know, it's the chances of Metro serving all of Monona is much higher than with the Express and the Lyft.
I'll say that I think that it also helps serve the business community of Monona
Yes.
much better. With the ability for people that don't live in Monona to travel here
Mhm,
for jobs that they could not take otherwise, so.
right.
Patrick brought that up at a meeting, and I know we received feedback from other business owners saying.
Yeah.
Was Patrick speaking as a business owner?
Mhm.
Okay. Patrick DePulo.
Yes,
Okay,
because he owns, the pizza place.
yeah, yeah,
Monona Drive, and he has trouble hiring staff that don't live nearby. So,
got it.
I've heard the same thing from the yoga instructors at Mala Yoga, which is at
Oh.
Owen, that they're eager to have the bus come because they come down from Tompkins, Flom Avenue, and or Tompkins Avenue, and have to walk pretty substantial distances to get to teach.
We also heard that from the whole staff at Elder Leopold Nature Center. They all wrote, similarly.
so this is the.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
When it comes through now.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah, you've got 3 routes, right? So obviously it's covering more territory.
Shall we talk about equity for serving the people living directly on the bus routes? This consideration was brought up from Alder Moore, saying that, one of the people that are disproportionately affected by the proposal are the people directly on the route. And so we wanted to flesh out explicitly considerations for what our community is asking of people living directly on the route, and in trade-off to benefits for the rest of our community. So.
yeah, and that one, I think I also had talked about. I mean, I think we had that drafted in a couple of different ways, but I was thinking about the concerns that people had that live directly on the route. Noise, pollution, traffic. But so it was more about the perceived impact of those people on the route. And obviously it'd be inequitable if you live on one of those major, if you live on Dean or you live on Nichols, that might be a plus if you like if you like the bus, but if you live on one of those routes, obviously what you would conceivably, the impact on you would be greater, having the buses. Now, if people take to the bus, which is to say our ridership significantly increases and people stop using their cars, then the issues of pollution and traffic pretty much go away, because I think they said, if I remember, the national research said you need 8 people to take the bus. To basically, if you took 8 cars off the road, that in terms of the overall pollution, if you will, from the vehicle, the bus is actually, is less by using a bus than if 8 people got in their car. And if 8 people didn't get in their car and they got on the bus, then obviously it wouldn't impact traffic. It would be an improvement to traffic.
I also wanted to bring up in this question of equity, that there were a lot of comments about sidewalks and accessing the bus, having concrete pads available and sidewalks. I'm a little uncertain as to what the status of that, but it sounded, if I remember correctly, we had a commitment from the mayor to help us to install sidewalks along the proposed bus route over some period of time, which is something that would, of course, directly affect the folks who live on this route. Does anybody know more specifics or anything more concrete about that?
Yeah, so
I do.
basically,
But no, well, Mark, you can go ahead and answer it. I mean, she talked about it during her campaign, and I believe she's already asked the Public Works Department to put in the capital budget, capital line item for a sidewalk running on Winnequa between Dean and Nichols, or Nichols and Dean.
that is true.
So So on one side, in much the same way that we've done in other parts of the city, so.
That could be,
particularly on Winnequa. So
I mean, that could be done with our current transit system too. I don't know that it. I mean, we could put sidewalks there, right?
Yeah,
That could be
yeah,
a
yeah.
benefit no matter what system we choose.
Yeah. Yeah, I just was thinking about how is it directly affecting the people on the route, and that was one of those.
Yes, I think we all agree that we're more inclined to make those improvements if we go with something that we feel like needs to bring that along with it. But I also think it's difficult to really judge the impact on a person that lives on the route. Me being a person that lives on a cul-de-sac.
Right.
With, that's kind of a little bit of mind reading, I think.
Mhm.
Sure, they have better access to the bus, but if they don't want to ride it, then they're more likely than not negatively impacted per this feedback. From the extra sound of a bus or the traffic of a bus, et cetera.
Safety hazards.
So I have a hard time, like.
Yeah.
Even though we're weighting these things, I'm having a hard time discerning the qualities of each.
Right.
When it comes to this,
Well, one thing I remember when we talked to the general manager for Metro. They seem to be on a very aggressive campaign to buy electric buses.
mhm,
And he was kind of sketching out a schedule that said within 2 or 3 years, they were gonna have a pretty sizable fleet of these things.
Yeah.
So as they buy electric buses, the number of buses with internal combustion engines goes down proportionally.
right,
But it
I
seemed
think
like
in
it
the
was gonna
long
be
run-
in a couple
Yeah.
of years, is what I recall him saying.
Yeah, well, I assume just from today, I assume they're in the same grade process.
Yeah, so it might be more than 2 years.
Yeah, so I assume it's,
they're all fighting for the money.
yeah, they're fighting
Right.
for it, and it's.
Well,
Seems like
they're
it's now more restricted.
They're a state agency, not a private business, and so their funds are substantially
Yeah,
greater than private
Metro is
businesses.
municipal, I think.
yeah, so,
So they probably have a leg up in getting the grants.
The other piece I wanna just bring up is like, I've been on the commission for 3 years and I don't personally remember hearing complaints from Monona citizens about the noise or the pollution from our current transit service. And I wanted to ask, does anybody remember hearing any of those complaints?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we've ever actually received, well, unless you have and haven't told us, but I don't recall ever receiving a complaint about the system from the perspective of a resident who isn't riding it
no,
about it.
no,
Maybe from a rider,
right, or,
Yeah,
but those are
that's a different.
human resources type issues more than they are.
Yeah.
yeah, the other complaint I do get would be, why don't we have Metro?
That was a common, that was probably a
So,
perennial.
Yeah,
I've been
we get
talking
that
about
all
it,
the time.
you know,
I think this is, I'm gonna go back, Doug, to what you said. I mean, I do think that this particular item is a challenge because like you said, depending on where you live. And I do think it's more about perception. And it's not that I don't take people's feedback here seriously, because I do, I understand, but I guess I'm not, I also think that it's one of those things that is more about change is difficult necessarily than the reality of what it's gonna be. Which is, it's like, for instance, I think about, all the people that live around the firehouse that would tell you, all the residents that live around the firehouse that would tell you that they don't even hear the sirens anymore. Like it just becomes white noise, right? I mean, if you live next to the fire station, Doug Wood would say, it doesn't change his quality of life at all. And he lives right there at the library. So
I used to live on a bus route in Madison, and when a bus went by, you would have to stop talking. I mean, the noise was considerable even inside the house.
really,
So, yeah. And then sometimes they'd idle across the street from it just because they were ahead of schedule. So it's a real thing.
Okay. So let's, it sounds like what we're saying is that Metro would be more of a challenge on that score
Yeah.
than what we've got now.
Yeah, and I think when it comes time to making a choice, we just have to be real about
Yeah,
that there's gonna be an impact. And that this, people who live right on the route, in essence, are taking one for the team. And we just have to be sympathetic and if possible, provide some mitigation or whatever, some additional plantings, I don't know what, but something that they feel like they're not just being taken advantage of.
sure. And I
That's-
wasn't at all dismissing it. I was just saying that
Yeah,
I don't know that it's as bad as, but I really appreciate that feedback. And I think we're saying that that certainly in terms of noise, that Metro would be,
yeah,
it would have a bigger negative impact.
yeah.
Want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, how well equity, how well does transit serve older adults and seniors? So here again, of course, we have, I can't say better things about the Monona Lift service, except for its coverage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's very simple to get, but it doesn't cover all your needs.
Flip flop on the other way that for, it's better coverage, yeah, for
Much better coverage.
much better coverage, but maybe not as,
It requires a trip for an interview, right?
yeah, so there's a little bit of that, but the coverage is better.
Obviously better. So it's a trade-off, I guess.
What was their like response time? For getting a ride?
I think you have to call the day ahead.
24 hours.
It's the
I
same
think they're
thing with
both-
Lyft. You call by, it's publicized as you have to call it by 4 PM the day before to request a ride, which is exactly what the Lyft is. So they're identical. Now, I did just read something this weekend that said that where Madison Metro was quoted as saying that you can call 45 minutes before you need a ride
Wow,
for paratransit. So I don't know if with a new system they've cut that down, but I would stick with the day before and basically make it equal. So it's really about coverage, right? The Metro covers everywhere and
Well, there's a pretty substantial difference in the times that service is available, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
as I understand it, the Lyft is only like midday, Monday through Friday, whereas paratransit is available the entire time that the Madison Metro service is available. So that seems to be
Right.
it's a good point.
much better, much bigger coverage area, much more times available.
Right.
However, that barrier to getting access to paratransit is a big concern for
Right.
a lot of people.
yep.
Call them and on a lift to get your interview for the paratransit.
Based on public hearings we had in Madison Metro, response was, we haven't turned anybody down. So there is that process.
Right.
As far as they told us at the meetings, they haven't really put a note to anybody, so.
Right, but a lot of people don't bother to, I mean, we were
Right.
talking about any senior, any person.
They
get
don't
it.
go through the process like.
They won't even try to apply.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, because there is a gap, right? And this is one of my biggest concerns here is that right now the Lyft helps anybody. I mean,
Right.
including, Doug, you were saying you could call up and get a Lyft.
Mhm.
Whereas
that's very high.
there's a
That's right.
gap of older adults that may not get access to paratransit, but may only have access to the expanded coverage of the Madison Metro system if they have the ability to get to the stops and ride the bus. But if
Right.
they can't get to the stop to ride the bus, that's one thing that qualifies them for Madison paratransit.
Mhm.
So there's a tiny gap, there's a gap And I don't know the extent and scope.
They also advertise something they call mobility training. Which is that they will get people who have a disability or older people trained on how to use the standard service. And it also says paratransit eligible individuals who complete the training may receive a free Metro bus pass. So they're incentivizing people who have the capacity to use
It's cheaper.
the fixed route bus to try it out because they are accessible.
It's really admirable.
Yeah. If
That's
you can
great.
get to the stop, they are accessible.
I assume there's some hate things there probably trying.
I think they're trying to just make sure that the paratransit doesn't get over.
Yeah, so they want.
Yeah, so it's in their best interest.
But
Smart.
being very accommodating.
It's very, very smart on their part to do that.
Other considerations? Okay, let's move on to how do we serve people with disabilities? And I think I'll just say, I think there's a lot of overlap between supportive seniors and supportive people with disabilities. So do we have any novel considerations?
No, that's what I can think of.
The only big thing is we don't know, like, live service is,
Well,
they go door to door and make sure, you know, I think they do a little extra, but we don't know anything paratransit.
Right.
That'd be the only, but that's probably.
I think that the city bus from Madison Metro, if you are in a wheelchair, is faster to load. A ramp rolls out right at the regular door.
Good
The
point.
driver can get up to help you, fasten your wheelchair in place, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah,
Like if you've ridden a city bus
Yeah,
and someone's gone on, you're not like there for much more than a minute or so. Whereas I think our buses have a little bit of a process, below the wheelchair, probably in the back door or something. I don't know if I've ever seen it done.
I don't think I have others.
But the kneeling glass with the ramp is like, and on you go and it's quick. So, I mean, I think that's a novel consideration. The equipment is better.
I also want to give additional really good merit to Madison Metro's ADA compliant website. For people with screen readers, for people with visual disabilities, it's much easier to navigate. That was feedback that Charles visited us, was in appearances 3 meetings ago, maybe.
yeah.
And
the
had
screen itself is more accessible.
their website, their website and their materials. So for somebody who has low vision,
Limited
it's
vision.
much easier for them to understand what's going on with Madison
kidding.
Metro.
Wow,
Yeah, they have good people in the city that are helping with ADA compliance, on their website.
definitely. Wow. Okay, and that's a good consideration.
Yeah, that was his. Other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, frequency and timeliness.
Well, the frequency is obviously much better with Metro.
Much, yeah. Especially if we have that 2-way route. I mean, that's the fastest way to get around our community. If we've got that 2-way C route.
Right. You really do have 3 routes to choose from. Timeliness,
I think that, so where the Express excels was that after it left Monona, it didn't stop anymore.
right,
There weren't any other stops. So once it was out of the past Cottage Grove Road, we were cruising downtown. So in that way, it was quick. You're gonna get a better travel time for sure.
I had one neighbor who said he'd probably stop taking the transit if they'd switch to Metro, because it would just take them longer to get downtown.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a longer, and if the route, the one-way route would be, depends where you are, it could be.
Yeah.
2-way route is
Well,
quicker, but.
A lot, meaning
That's where you're.
30 to 45 minutes, right? Nobody's gonna take 2 hours to get uptown.
No,
Right? Which under the current.
Yeah.
Like right now, if you try and get on the 38 bus to go downtown.
yeah,
I from my house have to walk up to Slum Road past Walgreens Thompson Drive before Walgreens to catch it. And that's an hour and 10 minutes to the hospital. Yeah, on the 38,
First times.
But didn't,
where Dave Jamaican is.
Tom.
Oh, Tompkins, yes, sorry.
I think the guy from Metro said from Monona and Dean, it would be 25 minutes from there to the square.
35 minutes, I think is what he said, right?
Yeah,
35?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
from which year,
From Monona and Dean?
no, Dean was quicker.
Yeah, I thought it was 25 and 35. Back.
Yeah. Well, the difference is
And you're
here in
saying
terms of
20
tens of
minutes from where
minutes.
you are, so,
Where it used to be, where, yeah, on the express.
yeah, right, that's
I
what,
never took a stopwatch to it.
no, but it's very close.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd be having the biggest change. You would be, if you.
well, my office is on West Washington Avenue now, so it's totally good.
Oh,
But I
well,
was still saying, you would have.
So it sounds like we're sacrificing some timeliness as it relates to the actual route time,
right,
Yeah.
Right,
but we would be gaining
reroutes.
a deal of frequency and timeliness as it relates to anybody that doesn't work at the hospital or UW and the 7 days a week. Right?
Yeah.
And the GNL every half an hour, so.
wow.
Right.
Yeah, you can get to Woodman's in like 18 minutes.
From the,
Yeah, Woodman's East on the L.
once you
Right
get
up
to
there.
Tompkins, where do you get on?
Oh, no, I haven't ridden it on the
Oh.
new, but if you go onto like Google Maps and you look at what it takes from someplace in Monona to go up, like it's fast, it's just right up to Woodman's East.
Wow,
And then right back down.
well, that's cool.
Yeah,
Well, it does go to a
Um,
shopping, grocery store then, not the Pick and Save, but
Yep.
Woodman's.
Yep.
So that's good to know.
Okay,
other concerns on frequency or timeliness? Okay, let's head to sustainability. How are these good for Monona, our community, and the environment as a whole?
All the same, right? 'Cause they don't.
I think it all depends on how quickly they electrify their fleet and Monona's, or, I mean, Metro's more likely to do it sooner.
One thing with Metro, though, it's remember they said it's in a big pool, all the routes, so
Right,
you could switch from year to year.
I would say that at face value, transit is is a sustainable concept, right?
Right.
Sharing things like this. The bigger and better the system works, the more
That's
people will
the biggest.
ride it. So if ridership is good, even a dirty diesel bus, which I think a lot of them are natural gas, whatever, but let's just use the parlance of our times. Is a sustainable choice compared to, individual vehicle use. As they electrify their fleets, all of that is even improved even better. So, like, for me, they're all transit is a good sustainability choice.
right,
And then there's and then increased ridership is a much bigger deal than the fuel moving the bus.
that's right.
So I have always been of the mind that if we can make it work good and go more places,
Right.
more people may ride it. That's again, I'm hoping, have no way to prove that will happen, but I also am not afraid of a thing that's undoable, like we don't have to build more than a couple of sidewalks.
Right.
We don't have to change our city infrastructure or make humongous investments.
Yeah.
To try something that might do more for more people and get more riders, so.
Yeah.
If we were looking at spending $1 million of the city's money on, a facility,
That's a good story.
I would be able to walk around at the community probably. But this is like a low bar of entry. To try a thing that I think could achieve a major sustainability goal.
Yeah.
Which, you know, our sustainability report doesn't talk as much about types of engines, but it does talk about transit as a functioning system, so.
Yeah.
That's my thought on that. I'll shut up.
I think the one thing I want to add is, we learned from Madison Metro that Metro drivers are good paying union jobs with benefits. And, you know, first student, we've been seeing them with problems with, you know, we heard earlier that they were compensating people that had to raise wages to get people in. You know, I think part of being sustainable is making good jobs in our community, and I think Metro and their union driver jobs do that.
Yeah, that's very true. I think they've also recently improved their staff facilities because I walked through their Buck Depot down on Baldwin, or I can't remember what's that's down on East Wash. And it was horrible. But they were walking us through there to hire an architect to fix it
Nice.
and make it good again. But it was like a scene out of like, you know, RoboCop. It's like, what is this? Like,
Yeah, well, and they've also, you know, they invested. Mahant, who's the fleet supervisor for the city of Madison. I met him number of times and met him at conferences as well. And, you know, they built an entire new facility for all of their other fleets, all of Madison's vehicles. And now they're working on the Metro as well, because, you know, they're anticipating having all electric. So as we just heard from first student, you know, they're going to need the charging facilities, they're going to need different mechanic stations, you know, and all of that. And so they're already heavily invested in that direction.
say that like the drivers that have worked at First Student and driven the Lyft and Express have been there a long time. So I don't feel like they're treating their staff poorly. I don't know what they get paid, but you know, Abdullah's been there for a decade. Bob, I think, is still driving, you know, considering Bob this morning. So I don't know. I don't know how to compare the two, but I've heard good things about working for this.
Should we move on
Yes.
to the next one?
Yeah, safety. I'm gonna kick this safety one off by really putting in two big thumbs up for licensed commercial drivers who have demonstrated their safe ability to drive buses on suburban roads. And that both the licensed drivers for First Student and the licensed drivers for Madison Metro are all safe, high quality drivers and very confident and qualified and able to navigate our roadways with their buses safely. Also, part of the reason I asked the question about safety is that Metro publicly releases their safety report every year, so you can know how safe Metro is and that all incidents are made public. And I think that's, you know, as we're talking about safety, we know how safe Metro is, and Metro is a safe bus system.
Right. Yeah, and I don't doubt what First Student said in terms of them also being proud of and committed to safety. Like I mean, when you go on their website, as he pointed out, you know, it's front and center. But I don't think there's a discernible difference between the two, which is to say, I think the notion that somehow Metro is not a safe system doesn't hold up in the data. As we found out, right? Because they had, and and they're looking to improve safety all the time. So and as I'm sure for a student is, so I don't think there's a discernible difference, and I'm with you, Addie, that I think having the licensed commercial drivers, is important, you know, for either service.
You know, so for me, the least safe service is no transit, right? Because I
Right.
think transit,
Hmm.
in that there are going to be fewer cars on the road as more people use transit. And the drivers of buses are safer than the drivers of private vehicles, though they're driving a larger vehicle. Yes, I understand that. But they're licensed and we know how safe they are.
Yep.
They're not looking at their phone.
Yeah.
It's against the rules. They'll get fired.
Other considerations for safety? On to reliability. We're getting close, folks.
Well, I think that's the only evidence that I have. I don't know how reliable Madison Metro is, since I haven't used it in over 15 years. But with the size of it, it's practically impossible for them to be down a route.
Right.
They have capacity for redundancy. They can just call it somebody who's on call. I'm sure they have an on-call system all the time. Meanwhile, I have in my user experience and as a commissioner, I've experienced, occasional problems with our service, like a couple years they were running a trashy old bus that was leaking exhaust into the bus, or it wasn't. That was the bus that was being used as the replacement bus for the other one, which was in the shop. So we ended up with
The one that bus ordered.
a funky bus.
I think I was riding those days.
Yeah,
I
remember this thing?
Yeah. They had a door that was closed with a bungee cord for a little while.
Yeah, it's a
It was closed.
I would say they had poor management then, and they had better managers, but that was.
Yeah, well, and I think we also got wise in our RFP writing.
Yeah.
We're like new equipment.
They had a wild guy.
Yeah, I remember him, cowboy.
But if I had to say one is better, I think.
I think it's just the size of the fleet is.
Right.
Right. And the number of employees.
Yeah, Madison also has those wonderful bus trackers, which at like an individual service level, you can pull up a map and see where your bus is.
We have that
And
with-
service alerts too. Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
It wasn't always reliable. Sometimes it was just not on there.
Yeah, and I guess I would say too that, I mean, I was heartened to hear him tonight talk about, in a sense, I think what he was trying to say was he thought it would be more reliable because, of course, he said they didn't have a driver problem anymore. And that because they are now going to have such a big footprint in Madison, that, they will have a more substantial operation right here.
Yeah.
But,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is a big but, I don't know, going from literally a last thread of Monona and Mineral Point to all of a sudden taking on the entire Madison school system, paratransit, Badger bus,
Where do we rank?
and moving and building the infrastructure here. I mean, I know that they operate all over the country, so they're skilled, but suffice it to say, frankly, the reliability could be less rather than better. We just don't know. Because it could be chaos for the first couple of 3 years as they get resettled here.
So it's a kind of a big question mark, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I don't know, that would be speculation, so I don't want to speculate,
Right.
guess at what could be. But I hear what you're saying, Nancy, and it could be that a municipality, our system may take a lower priority than school children,
That's right.
you know, or other things that seem to have a little bit of a higher, you know, acuity for functionality. So,
Right, the school contract that they just received is clearly their focus. I mean, he talked about school buses specifically as it related to electric as well. It was, you know, he was talking really first and foremost about the school buses, so. Yeah, so again, I don't want to speculate either, but I guess I'm just saying, I'm heartened to hear that he thinks things will get a lot better because he'll have this footprint in Madison. And we just don't know. But on balance, we know that Metro is more reliable than what we have been contracting with currently.
I do want to put in a plug though for the feedback that we got from a lot of older adults about the Monona Lift service as, you know, when we talk about reliability, it's both like how often, but folks were reliant upon that service for their transit needs and said that that service was meeting their transit needs.
and they
So-
liked the staff.
Yep, yep.
And I kind of like, this is like a little bit. Never mind. It's off topic, but if they're running paratransits,
Right.
they may have, we may end up having the same drivers
I
I was
serving.
thinking about that too.
I would
Senior
think so.
community
Yeah.
that they like and know already, I mean, that
Yeah.
would be I mean, there's kind of a added bonus to the fact that they acquired that. But now there's that possibility, should we do this?
Right,
That we might have some consistency, actually.
yeah,
About the same thing.
I mean, I don't know that they would do that, but it would, if I was a business, probably managing the drivers, and that was an opportunity to keep them in routes and community they know, I would do that.
I thought about that
That's-
too.
That is speculative, so,
Yeah, we just learned that today, right?
you're right, yeah.
Okay. Last thing, serving local transit needs.
That's for the two-way route, right?
Yeah. Well, and here's where I just bring up again. Access to the Pick and Save grocery store isn't on the C3 route, but is instead served by the L and the G, which is great. And that, you know, I also think that Nancy, you have brought up excuse me, Doug, you brought up earlier that people who live outside Monona and work in Monona have difficulty getting here, and that this would open up. There is a limitation of our express service, and would open that up potentially with either of the three Madison proposals.
Right. And we do know that the Metro, while it wouldn't serve Metro Market as well, potentially it, as we just talked about, it does a fantastic job with Woodman's. And a quick job with Woodman's, and services like RSVP also take people to Easttown and Hy-Vee and other groceries. So there's definitely a trade-off there, but and I think again the city center, I think it does facilitate. I think Metro does facilitate access. I think both services facilitate access, and certainly the Metro does provide more access to the city center than the Express does. It's just the, you know, even one way, it's more access than what the Express does. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know that we could, you know, until we know what ridership, you know, how many people the service is actually used to just get to the city center. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine if we think about the trade-off for a minute. I mean, there. A few meetings ago, I think we kind of posited, well, if we could afford the two-way, that would be best. But that two-way was primarily based, I think, thinking about transit times. And I don't know, and especially transit times around the city center. And I'm not, I guess I'd ask the question, are we so sure that in terms of the ridership that wants to use Metro to get down to the city center and back?
Yeah, we don't know. It's an experiment.
Right.
Well,
That if
I
it
was,
worth the additional 82, the additional money that we just talked about on page 1, right?
it solves an equity question for me.
Mhm.
It solves it helps achieve an equity goal, which is to allow for civic participation. Okay, because the irony of our first public input session where a bunch of people from the senior center were brought to the public meeting on the bus. They basically were donating their services to get people to a meeting that they couldn't otherwise get to, right? To voice their opinion against our proposal. That was the ironic part, but it made me realize, like, oh yeah, like all of our civic activity happens after the hours of operation for our transit services.
Right.
So then I'm thinking, well, how could we make this proposal work that way? And when you look at like being able to take the bus to town hall, the city hall, if you live south of the city hall, you can take the bus here. But then to get home, you don't really have a good option.
Right.
You'd have to go all the way downtown and come back.
It'd
It'd be a whole hour long.
Yeah.
loop. Or you would,
get off at Dempsey and Cottage Grove and then get back on the bus that comes back. One bus is going and the other bus is
right,
coming.
not super convenient.
You have a
And
chance.
if you live
Right.
north of City Hall, you would have to do that dance to get here.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that just doesn't seem like. Oh, that's not, most people are not gonna choose that option. So, I don't know. I think that the extra $30,000, I'm sorry, or 30,000 more than the first student, 50,000 more than the one-way. Buys some major usability. Within the city. That it doesn't have with the one-way route.
Right.
So I think it's a big deal. And it's a good value.
Right, that'd be, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But you're on the other side of it, somebody's gonna say it's running every half an hour and driving by my house every half an hour. What are you talking about that?
you're gonna have 32 buses going by your house.
Right, I was gonna say, it ups the quotient on the one that we really felt. Right, because you have 32 buses.
Sure. I know it doesn't help anybody with the concern about bus going by. It would be on the other side of the street.
It's,
Maybe when they become electric, we can consider adding something like that. Possibly. Or I'm
I'm
just
just
saying,
worried that we're gonna fail at ridership if we don't provide us. We'll miss out on an opportunity to succeed at a new thing. We don't make it work better.
yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's a good point.
That's what I was always giving me pause about the little league. There's a certain demographic of riders that won't access.
Right.
But,
Is
right,
that-
but they know, but those riders aren't accessed now. So those riders don't go to the city center now. They don't
Right.
have access to the city center now.
Correct.
And so,
That doesn't mean that it's okay.
no, I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm just saying that even the one way is a pretty big leap. Pretty
Totally.
big
And other,
access leap. Does
yes.
it make it totally equitable? Definitely not, but it's a pretty big leap in terms of the other equitability things that we talked about, I think. Right?
I think the idea of attending a big public meeting, you know, that's a once in
Right.
an unusual occasion when there's a high profile project. And I wonder if there's a creative solution to dealing with an urgent, once in a while, once in a
Hmm.
blue moon where you need that kind of transportation. I don't know, it's probably more than that, probably underestimating how often people want to go to a public meeting
Or the library,
or the
Or the
library.
pool, or,
any of the things that are here. That you would want to come to from Monona and go back to your house from.
election day,
Right,
come here to vote, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
So. I think, Doug, that you and I are kind of like teeter-tottering right around the same point. It's like, do we want? You know, as I'm thinking about it, I wanna have. The best transit in our community, like, I really want great transit for Monona, I really do. And. Like you, I absolutely value equitable access for everybody in our community, and I think that this, you know, that for me. Yeah, so overall, I want us to propose to the common council that we. Go with go with Madison Metro and get the C1 way. But I feel like you're wanting to propose going with it on the 2-way. Is that kind of where you're at?
I know that 50% of Mononans are like not jazzed about this change for various reasons.
Mhm.
And I want the system that I put my name behind or recommend to be at least good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if you're gonna have it, at least it's well thought out and it works. Like, I wanna be able to say, I think this is a well-designed system. And I think there's some flaws with it the other way that are like, yeah, it's okay. It does all these other good things, but then there's this one part where I'm like, it totally falls flat.
The 1-way loop.
Yeah, and I'm like, for extra 30, you know, over what we spend now, $30,000, if you had said to us 2 years ago, for $30,000 more dollars, this could run every day, it could go twice as far. You know, we'd probably been like, that's a good deal. And now we're looking at it against, well, you know, I don't know, we're looking at it against in a different light, but it's really a far superior functioning system for not that much more money than we're currently paying. So I'm like, if I have to look half of Monona in the face that doesn't want to, at least I go like, but it's good, it's a good fit, and it works, and it could expand access to everyday participation in community activities for people.
Yeah.
Not just get you downtown or bring in workers from downtown here, but like local people can really use this. So
I guess.
I'm not saying I'm not gonna support the other alternative, but I think it's kind of short-sighted.
If I was putting on my alder hat, I would have to say that the one-way metro is probably our best option. Just because of the political realities of it. There's
And
been,
what are those? Help me.
well, just the amount of criticism this project has gotten, I don't think is gone. I think it's still gonna be there. I don't know, maybe I'm reading the council wrong, but I think that would garner way too much opposition. And I think my vote might be difficult to cast in favor of it.
I think,
I think,
Go
Doug, and Addie, I'm totally appreciative of what you're saying. But to Rick's point, I could see the opposition. I mean, again, I just wonder. Okay, maybe during the summer, you know, when we're having concerts outside. I mean, I think we're thinking like, of course, people want to go to the pool, and of course, people want to go to the concerts at Winnequa Park, and of course, people are going to go to public meetings, and they're going to go to the library, or they're going to go to City Hall. But the reality is that when you take summer out of it, I mean, the rest of the year, the likelihood of the bus that goes from, you know, that takes people down to the city center and back, because we've got a two-way going, the likelihood, I think, of that bus being with kids in school, I mean, I'm just not seeing it being used. I'm not seeing it being, and I'm seeing a lot more opposition, because it's like, oh, great, not only went with Metro, you doubled down, and now I'm gonna have a bus going by my house 32 times a day instead of 16, every half hour. I'm gonna
You're
listen.
gonna
to
hear that, you're gonna hear that vitriol from anyway, no matter which one we vote for. You're gonna get you're gonna be, the
Well-
angry people are gonna show up angry.
But I
with
think
a
if it's-
one-way bus or a two-way bus, the same.
No, I
amount of
understand.
angry.
I understand that we're gonna get vitriol, but I think we're gonna get, I'm just saying, I think we're gonna get a lot more if we say, oh, by the way, we're gonna spend more money, not less.
Uh-huh.
And we're gonna be running a bus 32 times a day, not 16. And it's gonna be going by your house every half hour, not every hour. And
Then
we
you
have,
get a
no- you
sidewalk.
know, it's the likelihood of people actually using it, since nothing goes on in Winnequa Park in the winter. And you know, the community festival doesn't happen in the winter, and the pool's not open in the winter. So I just think it would be a tougher sell to the public, and I think it will be a tougher sell to the council.
so there's 2 points I want to bring up. One is that I think the benefit to the school students of the two-way route is pretty significant, right? Because that allows school students to get to and from home without doing that big loop. I just did want to bring that up as kind of one of my considerations, because Nancy, that's kind of the opposite of what you're saying, is that's most important, that the kids can get around in the winter time when it's really cold, right? And aren't standing outside for as long. The other piece that's weighing on me as I'm thinking about it is that from the very beginning of this proposal with Madison Metro, we said that this was going to be the same or less cost than what we're spending right now. And so I'm really concerned that 50-50 split is based on, to some degree, the fact that we didn't discuss the cost.
Mhm.
Right, like if you remember, like the total cost, there were, in fact, the public sessions, we didn't talk about the total cost, right? Under this assumption that it's going to be at or less. And so my concern is, if we now put the proposal at increased cost, we're kind of changing the parameters that we've been running under for 2 years, which I don't know how that will play out. And that's kind of,
And didn't we also discuss it in terms of 16 buses a day? I thought that was a public part of what we
Yes.
talked about.
Right?
So this would
It's gonna
be,
once
this
an
would,
hour.
now we're kind of upping the ante, I think. If we're trying to.
I don't disagree with these points.
Right,
And I don't disagree, people won't be mad about it being more money and more buses.
Yeah.
But I think more buses is better for transit systems. Because it's more opportunities to get on and go somewhere or
Right.
get off. So I think, except for if you think a bus is a bad thing to see in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So but again, I'm weighing that and I'm putting more emphasis on the functionality of the system than I am on
Right.
perceived discomfort. Because nobody has evidence to prove that they won't like it when it's working and functioning in the city. They're thinking that they won't.
Yeah.
And then again, what's $30,000 against, I don't know what our city annual
Well,
budget
what do you
is.
think of that, Mark?
I know, Mark is always telling me we have no more money, we can't do it.
It's gonna
But
be,
I am always saying, if you want us to do something better, we have to pay for it. And it
Well-
costs for it, so.
Like, we'll get to the financial stuff.
Well,
and
but I think we need
again,
to, right?
Well, the financial stuff is what happens this year is. You're able to increase your property tax levy excluding debt service. It's by your net new construction, so our net new construction was the lowest in Dane County.
Yeah, we're
So it was-
landlocked, yeah,
It was a negative.
Yeah.
So it means we can't increase our property tax levy at all.
okay,
So that's one part of it. We did get, there's new state aid money that came out. We are getting a bunch of state aid money because the state changed some stuff, some shared revenue.
Mhm.
So there's money coming in there. But as far as property tax levy, we have
Yeah,
zero
yeah.
work. So that's, so we had to figure a bunch of stuff out.
because part of. Well, so I guess part of the politics, and I think what I was kind of asking you about, Rick, is. Is it, so there's, so the process here is that we make a recommendation to the council. Right, and they take it up and debate it and maybe have more hearings and listening sessions if they think they need to, and eventually vote on it and it moves or it doesn't.
Recommendation would be they'd have to read, they have to read to approve it. So if they want to slow down the process, they can.
Okay, okay.
But a recommendation would go to the council and say, whatever we recommend, the council would vote on it together. It's
So
rather
it's
not gonna-
possible we could make a recommendation. And I'm gonna throw out an extreme example. We want buses to run every 8 minutes through Monona. And I'm just making an
Right.
extreme example, right? And it's going to cost us an additional $450,000 to operate. And they would take that recommendation from us and vote it down immediately
Well, yeah.
as being
and
completely
they may
like
refer it back to the transit commission. to
Yeah. to
Revise.
review it,
Revise,
revise
take
it.
a look at it.
So there is a game that we could potentially play, which is to send the two-way proposal with increased costs for transit, see if it comes back to us.
So you're saying leave it up to the council, yeah.
I mean, that's, or is there a
Well, they might not come
possibility?
back to you, they might just say, you know, they might.
Yeah.
You know, after the first read, the alders might say, you know, understand why they did it, appreciate the recommendation, but Ben and Alder would propose an amendment to accept a one-way instead.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
And so they
Okay.
don't, it doesn't necessarily come back
Correct.
to the transit commission. So I'm gonna, it's 8 o'clock, so holy cow, good work, you guys. So I'm gonna suggest two things. First of all, I really want to hear from the other transit members.
Oh, yeah.
Before we make any recommendation, and I know I personally want to think about it some more. So I would suggest everybody think about it some more between now and the next meeting, and we'll talk to I will not be here in September.
Do you want to maybe
but I-
this September, or do you want to cancel that?
But I will, but yeah,
Hold
and
on, don't we have another? No, that's wait, one month, I'm sorry.
so I think we need to think about it some more. And then the second thing that I was gonna say is, and this is just pie in the sky, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. Because I believe that anything is possible, you just have to create it, even when you have no money. So, and that is, and this is not a new idea, but you know, what if we were to say, okay, this doesn't change transit. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't accept Madison Metro because people still need to get around. the Madison area. But what if we were to say, okay, because we do want the perfect system, Doug, or the best system. Maybe after we get through this decision, maybe one of the things that we do is we look at creating Monona's own little trolley system. And it's underwritten by, I mean, I just spent time back up in Door County. I'm up in Door County a lot right now. And they have trolleys in like every community up there. You know, and they're running, you know, they're running those trolleys to take people around those communities. And so maybe, you know, we get businesses in Monona to underwrite Monona's own little trolley to take people to community events and around just around Monona. On a regular basis. Maybe it's not every hour, maybe it's whatever it is. Maybe that instead of paying more to Madison Metro, or, you know, and I'm suggesting that maybe we could get it underwritten somehow by businesses sponsorships or something. I don't know. By MESBA. You know, maybe there's another way to solve the, I want to go to the pool, I want to go to the library, than running buses.
I like that in concept.
Yeah. So,
That's kind of like when some people were concerned that the loss of the lift, I was like, well, perfect system is both.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Just too expensive.
Very expensive.
right,
And I, by the way, I know I sounded like pretty stern about my position on this, of course,
No,
I'm
Appreciate it.
being, I'm trying to share like, you know, how strongly I feel about making it work well. Of course, I'm still part of the team here and persuadable
No,
to meet you're all up with a unified point of view, but
I saw this passion,
yeah, I just want to, you know, I just
Which is
like
great.
take
which is why you're here.
my role in the commission seriously and to make it functional.
totally get it, Doug.
is what I
No
think
need
is-
no need to apologize.
You've devoted so much time to this committee. You have every right to say whatever it is you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Am I on the happy neighborhood committee or am I on the transit committee?
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Addie, once again, thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you all, and thank you all for wading through this.